Satoru Gojo might be my favorite manga character to come out of a series in the 21st century. He's a sensei, the Gojo clan's prodigal son, and the strongest sorcerer today. You just ignore chapter 236. His unbridled confidence in his abilities would border on arrogance if he wasn't literally the strongest person in every room he steps in. He genuinely shaped the very essence of the world when he was born. God, is this what it feels like to be an MJ Glazer? Nevertheless, I'm so tired of everyone calling my glorious blue-eyed king weak. And, spoiler alert, he beats the brakes off of Johnny Joestar. Video over. I mean, not video over, but still, it really isn't as close or as one-sided in Johnny's direction as people might think. But I'm Flash fan 2008, and let's get into it. Whenever people see strong anime characters, they tend to pit them against each other, like kids smashing action figures together. Hell, take a look at Goku and Saitama. They've been power scaled to hell and back. Though the main thing that separates Gojo from the Hall of Famers is why he's so strong, what's known colloquially in the anime manga community as having hacks. When comparing fictional characters, hacks are abilities that bypass traditional ways of fighting. The nature of both Gojo's and Johnny's strength is the concept of infinity. The idea of limitless power in any aspect makes for incredibly interesting conversations and also leads to a lot of misinterpretations. Don't get me wrong, Johnny Joestar and his stand, Tusk, are incredibly strong. It's just... Well, let's start with what makes Gojo so strong before we get into why people think he's supposedly a Johnny victim. The main thing that makes Gojo a target for these types of conversations is the base application of his limitless curse technique, infinity. Now, I could sit here and act like I understand the pseudoscience behind how infinity works when I don't, but I'm still going to try my best to explain how it effectively works, and explain the aspects relevant to the conversation now. Gojo's infinity works by infinitely dividing the space between him and anything he wants. It's been described as bringing the Achilles and the tortoise paradox into reality, making anything perilous targeted at Gojo get caught up in infinite space and never reach him. But all you really need to know is that against all conventional attacks, it acts as an unbreakable force field. Now this is the crutch that Gojo uses to stop most traditionally strong characters. If you don't have an attack that either has no travel time, or an attack that doesn't exist in traditional space-time, you can't touch it. That's the fault most characters fall into. Superman might have god-level strength, as well as super speed, invulnerability, and a myriad of other abilities, but since he doesn't have a way to bypass infinity, he loses the matchup. That's why people kinda dog on Gojo, because he doesn't win most fights because of any direct action or character on his part, more so just because his enemies can't tick one box and lose by default. Luckily, Johnny can tick that box, which is why he's often pitted against Gojo. Since we're already talking about him, let's go over the abilities of Johnny Joestar, or more specifically his stand, Tusk. Now, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is bizarre, it's in the name for Christ's sake. So for those of you watching that aren't JoJo fans, I'm warning you right now that some of what I'm going to say is going to sound ridiculous as hell. Also, major JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7 Stillball Run spoilers. I'm going to be fully going into all of Johnny Joestar's abilities and mentioning major plot events whenever necessary, so continue with caution if you haven't read Part 7 yet. So after coming into contact with and absorbing the left arm of the Saint's corpse, Johnny Joestar came into possession of his stand, Tusk. Tusk works in tandem with the supernatural force in the SBR universe, the Spin, which is the alternate universe's equivalent to Hamon. If those words meant nothing to you, don't worry. All you need to know is that because of a whole bunch of wacky mumbo-jumbo, Johnny can rotate his nails and shoot them like bullets. Since Tusk grows and develops in strength throughout the part, represented by what are called acts, he's able to do increasingly miraculous things with these nail shots. Now, Tusk Act 1 doesn't matter at all. It's Tusk's first and most basic ability, letting Johnny shoot his spinning nails like bullets. After using Act 1, his nails take a short time to grow back before they can be used again. Because his nails have to spin like saws before he shoots them, he can use them for basic cutting damage and even for impromptu movement. But since this attack can't break the Gojo's infinity, I won't keep mentioning it. Tusk Act 2 is where things get a little more interesting. Since it's better than Act 1 in almost every way possible. Not only do they shoot faster and go farther, but his nail shots now spin like drills instead of buzzsaws, allowing them to pierce things and deal even more raw destructive damage. But that's not enough to bypass Gojo's infinity on its own, and also not what makes him so strong. After learning more about the spin and implementing the golden ratio into his nail shots, they gain a new secondary effect. When coming into contact with the physical surface, Johnny's nail shots disappear into mini black holes that have a homing effect and will track down enemies for up to 8 seconds. Once they come into contact with adversaries, they keep moving, homing in on their vitals and damaging them directly. It's the fact that they're vortexes, technically not existing for a short period of time while rotating thanks to the golden ratio, that theoretically allows them to bypass Gojo's infinity. Even though they can only travel on solid surfaces in this state, it's still incredibly important to mention. All of this strength does come with an added downside. Nails shot with Act 2 take way longer to regenerate. While Johnny eventually realizes he can expedite this process by drinking special herbal tea, it's not exactly a super viable strategy to use mid-fight, so he has to make sure to manage his ammo properly. Tusk Act 3 isn't as big a jump in strength as Acts 1 to 2, but it's still incredibly helpful in this fight. So we've gone from spinning nails to spinning nails that turn to black holes. What could possibly be next? Well, we've already gotten to black holes, so wormholes aren't that far off. After a conversation with who is heavily implied to be Jesus Christ himself, Johnny learns to steady his shot and trust in himself. By shooting himself with a nail shot, he's able to travel through the infinitely small point at the end of his Act 2 shots, effectively letting him, and him alone, travel through the holes Act 2 creates. Now we're finally onto the big guns, the power everyone's been waiting for. The real reason Johnny Joestar beats Satoru Gojo. Tusk Act 4. This pretty pink cowboy fridge uses the natural golden ratio rotational energy of a horse in a stride to shoot a nail shot with truly infinite energy imbued into it. Now, alongside a heightened level of sentience and the ability to use the powers of other acts, it's Tusk Act 4's infinite energy that would allow it to directly bypass Gojo's infinity. Well, bypass isn't exactly the right word. It wouldn't slip under it like Act 2 would. Act 4 has the power to directly pry open infinity and touch Gojo directly. Pause. But what happens when you actually get hit by Tusk Act 4? What makes it so deadly? Well, when you get hit by Act 4, you start spinning like a Beyblade, but on a cellular level. Act 4 imbues its infinite rotational energy into whoever it hits and rotates every aspect of their being. This infinite rotation causes them to return to whatever spot they were shot at, regardless of whatever they might do. Because it is infinite, this rotation will stay with the target forever, eventually causing them to disintegrate. Do you understand why Tusk Act 4 is so scary now? Johnny can shoot a bullet that if it hits you, you lose. If you put a barrier between yourself and the bullet, you lose. Hell, Tusk Act 4's most iconic appearance has it pry open a trans-dimensional barrier fueled by miracles. A literal wall of light that redirects all negative energy away from its user. And it just gets ripped open by this thing. And I think it's this barrier-destroying ability that even brought Gojo into the conversation. You have a character that can eviscerate anything in its way and have him fight a character who derives most of his strength from a supposedly immutable barrier. An unstoppable force versus an immovable object. And I think it's here where most people end the conversation. They're more concerned with Tusk Act 4 versus Infinity as opposed to Johnny Joestar versus Satoru Gojo. Because yeah, even I, the biggest Gojo glazer on the planet, he can see that if Act 4 came into direct contact with Infinity, Gojo's done. But it's like shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet. Sure, it'd kill him. He's weak to kryptonite. But he's not gonna just sit there and take it. Johnny has a singular win condition against Gojo, but Gojo has a million win conditions against Johnny. So it's time we talk about what else Gojo has in his toolkit beyond just Infinity. Like I said before, Infinity is just a neutral application of the Limitless technique, so there's way more to it. Gojo has both blue and red, balls of pure space energy with the power to attract and repel respectively. With both of these attacks being long range and easier to activate than Tusk 4, I think Johnny loses right here, but for the sake of things, let's keep going. By merging blue and red, Gojo gets access to purple, more specifically hollow purple, a big old bowling ball that just destroys anything in its path. Technically, it uses both the attraction and repelling powers of its ingredients to simulate an imaginary mass that shreds whatever it touches, but since Johnny is just a regular human with regular human durability, it would just kill him instantly. While this does take way longer to charge up than red or blue, its range and sheer destructive power outclasses what Johnny can handle. But hey, maybe Johnny can shoot an Act 4 nail shot at purple and use the infinite rotational energy to destroy it. But Gojo still has more! We haven't even gone over what I think is the most damning element of this fight, Gojo's domain expansion. If you thought Gojo's only hacks were Infinity, you're sorely mistaken. His domain expansion, Infinite Void, has the ability to instantly fry the brain of whoever is caught in it. In Jujutsu Kaisen, domain expansions are when you conjure up a barrier and paste your innate domain into it, basically allowing you to make your own battlefield in a certain radius around you. Within these domains, the user's attacks have a sure hit effect, meaning they always land. After being trapped in the prison realm, don't ask, Gojo gained an insane understanding of how barriers work, but that isn't even necessary. Infinite Void uses another interpretation of Limitless. Instead of creating and harnessing infinite space, it uses infinite knowledge. Anyone in his domain that isn't Gojo or isn't touching Gojo has their brains blasted with all the knowledge in the known universe. Special grade cursed spirits and certain adept sorcerers, like Sukuna, are able to shrug off this brain blast after only a few minutes, but to a normal human like Johnny Joestar, it's game over. During the Shibuya incident, Gojo used his domain expansion for a mere 0.2 seconds, and it hospitalized all the civilians in its wake for months. If Johnny gets close to Gojo at all, or vice versa, for whatever reason during the fight, he's literally fried. Blah, 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 blah. Now, Infinite Void and Hollow Purple are the main two sprinkles I wanted to mention that I often feel are disregarded in this matchup, but Gojo still has more he can do. Without Tusk Act 4, Johnny Joestar is a normal human. Hell, for the most of Part 7, he's literally disabled. Sure, he has an adept knowledge of the spin, but stats-wise, he's just a guy. Unfortunately, Gojo isn't just a guy. He can reinforce his body using cursed energy to both make himself more durable and his attacks stronger. He can coat his punches in blue to make them home in on opponents slightly and increase their damage. He can literally fly and teleport using Limitless. I haven't even mentioned 6 eyes or reverse curse technique. The 6 eyes are another thing he inherited from his clan and give him insane perception and make his curse energy usage so efficient he can basically use all his techniques infinitely. While RCT lets him heal any damage he takes, besides Tusk Act 4 rotation of course, whenever he wants. For every tool Johnny has, Gojo has 5 more that are just as, if not more versatile. Like I mentioned before, Johnny only has one way to actively beat Gojo. Maybe 2 if you want to count Tusk Act 2, but I don't think that's enough. Not only does Gojo have way more ways to kill Johnny, but also Act 4 isn't infallible. When, if at all, Johnny is able to get off an Act 4 nail shot, Gojo can just dodge it. I think people often ignore the fact that when he's fighting alternate world Diego at the end of part 7, Johnny loses. He loses to a regular human with a horse and the ability to stop time. Not only is Diego on horseback able to evade Tusk Act 4 for a considerable amount of time, even after it eventually hits him, he just cuts off his leg and throws it back at Johnny, redirecting Tusk Act 4 onto its own user! Yeah, that's right, Johnny isn't even immune to his own abilities. Only after Steven Steele comes in clutch and gets Johnny back on his horse is he able to mitigate the effects of Act 4 with another nail shot going in the opposite direction. But still, Act 4 is incredibly beatable. Not only can Gojo do the same thing as Diego and just remove whatever part of his body is struck by Act 4, he can also just regenerate it, meaning it's not even debilitating. Or he could just stay flying above Johnny so Tusk Act 4 can't even reach him. Granted, Valentine contracted Diego and told him the ways to counter Act 4, but Gojo has the 6 eyes and a depth enough battle IQ that I think he could derive the nature of Johnny's abilities pretty swiftly. If Gojo hits Johnny with Hollow Purple, uses his domain at all for whatever reason, or just decides to run hands with him, Johnny loses. That's not even mentioning the fact that if Johnny is separated from his horse for whatever reason, or his horse is mangled beyond the point of being able to generate the golden ratio rotational energy, he can't even use Tusk Act 4, while there's nothing Johnny can do to stop Gojo from using any of his tools. In the end, do I think it should be an incredibly fun death battle fight to watch? Yes. Do I think there's a world where Gojo gets hit and loses and Johnny wins? Yes. But do I also think there are worlds where he completely dogwalks Johnny? Also yes. The whole point of me making this video was just to have fun, and I really just wanted to throw my hat in the ring. Like I said before, I personally don't really like power scaling. I think judging characters solely on how hard they can hit or how fast they can move is a kind of disingenuous way of comparing them, especially when the authors themselves don't usually place the same emphasis that power scalers do on consistency or real world physics. But in the end, that's just my opinion. These are 2 different characters I love dearly from 2 different franchises that I love even more, and everyone's going to think a little differently about how a clash between them would go. You gotta remember that Stan Lee quote: whenever 2 characters are fighting, the only thing that decides who wins is whoever the author wants to win. Like, they're literally just fictional characters. You can't tell who's gonna win, but it's obviously it's Gojo. Of course it's gotta be Gojo. If this video gets enough likes, I'll go over other Stans versus Gojo and how I think it would go. Like, low-key, I think he beats the brakes off of Toru and Wonder of You, but that's a discussion for another day. Comment down below how you think Gojo fares against Johnny and the rest of the JoJo's verse. I love seeing y'all's opinions of whatever stupid anime stuff I talk about, and it helps with my engagement too. Like and subscribe if you like the content and if you want to see more of it. It helps you see my videos more and it helps me out a ton. But that's all I've got for y'all today, and I'll see you on the flip side. Flashman 2008, out! Okay, chat, let's record a video.